In 1994, at the USA World Cup, Colombia were playing the hosts in a must-win game. One of the Colombia defenders, Andres Escobar, tried to stop that cross getting to the attacker, but unfortunately he mistimed it and the ball slid agonizingly past his own goalkeeper and into his own goal. Little did he know that goal would end up costing him his life just a few days later. Colombia went on to lose that game and they were knocked out of the World Cup. Escobar was at his home and he was feeling lonely and depressed, reflecting on what had happened at the World Cup and the state of his country. And he was pacing back and forth in his home. So he got into his car and he drove into Medellin and he started going round different bars. He went to a liquor store with his friends and he ended up in the El Indio nightclub. It's a brightly coloured, very loud nightclub. It has a very long bar. And he was sitting there and he noticed that his friends had disappeared. They'd got split up with all the dancing and the noise and he didn't know where they were. So he ended up sharing a drink with strangers, which was fine at first, but then it took a turn for the worst. Many of them started poking fun at him and were annoyed at him for losing the own goal in the World Cup. So he left the bar at 3 a.m. and walked out into the parking lot. Seemingly he fell on his own. However, there were 3 men who were following him. He walked slowly over to his car that was in the parking lot, opened up the driver's side door and sat inside. At that moment, 3 men appeared right next to the open door and 2 of them drew handguns. Andres had no idea what was happening. Was this a robbery? Was this some kind of argument? Did they think he was somebody else? Before he could say anything, one of the men raised his pistols and pointed it at Andres's chest and shot him 6 times. With every shot, he shouted, "Goal! Goal! Goal!" And when he'd finished firing all 6 shots, he said thank you for the owned goal. By this time, many of the people inside the club had heard the commotion outside and they rushed into the parking lot to see this scene of Escobar bleeding to his death, and the 3 men rushed off in a Toyota pickup truck and fled the scene. People quickly phoned an ambulance and Escobar was rushed into hospital, but he died 45 minutes later. So who was this stone-cold killer? Well, Humberto Castro Munoz was a driver and bodyguard for one of the drug cartel barons. His boss, Santiago Gallon, allegedly had lost a substantial amount of money on the Colombia versus USA game. Humberto was arrested for the murder of Escobar the following night and he was sentenced to 43 years in prison. But due to so-called good behavior, study and prison work, he only served 10 years. And in a surprising twist, it turns out the drug cartels had been putting the Colombian national team under pressure throughout the entire World Cup. The Colombia coach, Francisco Macherana, later confessed he was receiving regular death threats for different members of the team from the drug cartels during the World Cup as they tried to control the outcome of the games. He was even forced to drop one player before the start of a game because a cartel had threatened to murder the entire team if he didn't. On the 3rd of July 1994, Andres Escobar's funeral took place. Over 100,000 mourners viewed Escobar's body as they filed past the coffin through the night. And over 15,000 people gathered at the cemetery to watch his coffin be lowered into the ground. The city of Medellin later unveiled a statue in his honor, and as a fitting legacy, his family also founded the Andres Escobar Project to help disadvantaged children learn how to play football.